All right, guys, give me a sec. Excuse me, I just want to make sure everything is coming up here. Let me go here, see if I'm on. Let's see. All right, I am live. Looks like I am good to go with everything. All right. As always, I just want to say thanks for taking your time for joining me on these 5 minute-ish Fridays. It truly means the world to me. And I'll go ahead and I'll get into it for you guys. I'll start off with a stat here. So, as you know, I like to start off with a few stats. And so this is one that I came across. In just 6 months of 2025, nearly 188,000 homes were hit with foreclosure notices. That's a flashing red light for the market that distress is happening, and I am seeing that in some of the notes that I own. Another stat: when foreclosures finish, they usually take on average 645 days, almost 2 years. That's why a fast alternative like cash for keys, or another phrase is deed in lieu, is really a game changer. So that's today's topic: cash for keys, or even deed in lieu, little known hack that beats foreclosure every time. So once again, as I start this off, I'm not a financial planner or a CPA. This video is for educational purposes only. This is not investment, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional for advice. Any information that I give you, that anybody else gives you, you should always vet that against a qualified person, such as your tax advisor or your attorney that has your best interests at heart. So with that, what is cash for keys, or deed in lieu? It's an agreement to hand over a property for cash, common with non-performing notes, and it avoids foreclosure, and it really saves time and money. As you know, as that first stat, it usually takes about 24, on average, right, across the United States, on average, 24 months. And then that's not even accounting for if they file bankruptcy, right? So it could add a little bit longer to it. So how does cash for keys work? The borrowers agree to deed the property back to you in lieu of a foreclosure. The investor offers cash as an incentive, and the borrower moves out peacefully, hopefully peacefully, right? Things do go sideways on occasion, so that's where you have to have other checks and balances in place with doing this. And the investor takes possession of that property. So how much to offer for cash for keys? It ranges anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the state that you're in. You can use your foreclosure cost as your guide. So if on average, if foreclosure is going to cost, like $5,500 in your particular state, then you can just use that as a guide to get them out. One way or the other, you're going to pay that price. So you might as well just pay it up front, get them out, and then just get that property back and move forward with that. Sometimes, I've done this in the past as well. You pay for rent, moving. You pay for their, their payment for that they make to you for the principal interest, or when I was doing evictions, I offered to pay a couple months rent, right, or even paying for moving or deposits for the next house instead of cash. So these are little things that typically help. Here's some smart investor tips. Always check the title first. Pull an ownership and encumbrance O&E report. I did a previous video on O&Es. And then make sure you're the only lien holder on that, because if you're not, then the whole cash for keys, because you're your senior lien, right? You have a first mortgage, and if there's a homeowners association lien on it, or they have some type of other judgment on, say, some type of credit card debt, it could potentially, since you wiped out the first lien, their junior liens will go to first lien. So that's where you can. One thing that you could do is, what I typically do whenever I do a cash for keys or deed in lieu, I always get a consent to judgment signed, so that way, if, for example, this ONE report comes back and they didn't catch the junior lien or something was filed after I got it, and then this consent to judgment. So basically, what this is it's just a document that the borrower signs, and that you can hold all this in escrow, right? And so if something happens where that lien comes on after you do the cash for keys and you find out you do that O&E, you start moving forward, and then like a month or two after you get everything situated, you paid them, they're already out, and then you find out there's a lien. Well, they signed this consent to judgment where one, you can move forward with it, where you can start the foreclosure process. But what this does is it short circuits the foreclosure process because they're already consenting to the judgment. So that way you can wipe out those junior liens, or you can go back to the borrower and have them take care of it. But typically, if they're behind on your payment, they're behind on those other payments, and chances of them fixing that is slim to none. So that's why whenever I do a deed in lieu, I always get a consent to judgment signed in case something comes up down the road where if I'm unwilling or I don't want to um, do that deed in lieu where they're forcing my hand to do the foreclosure. This document is going to circumvent the process of the foreclosure process. But there again, they can always like file bankruptcy and all this other stuff. So that's why you need to talk. Excuse me. You need to speak with a qualified professional, an attorney that does these foreclosures and these deed in lieus, cash for keys, day in and day out. So a real world example. Borrower owes $120,000. Home is only worth $100,000. Maybe you offer $6,000 for cash for keys. It saves you 12 to 18 months of foreclosure. So you get that property back. It's faster, cheaper, cleaner outcome. You can get that property back and then make that decision whether you want to keep it as a rental, keep it as an Airbnb, or just sell it and just move on. So when do you offer cash for keys or deed in lieu? The borrower has already moved out. You want quick possession. The borrower wants a fresh start. And you confirm that you are the only lien holder on that property. And that's where, once again, you order that O&E report, that title report, to verify that you are that owner. But like I was saying before, I always get a consent to judgment signed as well. So that way it protects you as well. So why cash for keys works? It saves time and legal fees, builds goodwill, gets you the property faster. And some drawbacks, though, on these cash for keys. There is an upfront cost, but either way, you're going to pay it foreclosure or either cash for keys. Just be sure it's cheaper than the actual foreclosure process. There is some risk of damage. Some people leave the home trashed, and also verify before paying them the money that they leave the property in broom swept condition. Once again, that's why I always get that consent to judgment. So if they don't do what they say they are going to do, then I will foreclose on them. And I let them know that the stipulations on these cash for keys or deed in lieu of is they have to do X, Y, and Z. And if they don't do X, Y, and Z, then I will move forward with foreclosure process. Lien issues, always pull an O&E to avoid the hidden debts. And there are no guarantees, right? Even signed deals can still stall. They do go sideways. So as much as you can, get everything in writing, and always, speak to a qualified attorney to help you with this. So if you have any questions, hang on a second. Let me see if there are any questions. I'm not seeing anything. Give me 1 second. Let me look at my live feed here. If you have any questions, you could drop them in the chat. And I'm not seeing anything. But you could drop them in the chat here, or you can on the replays you can just pop them in there as well, and I'll be able to answer them. Or you can just shoot me an email, Larry@lghinvestments.com, or call me 513-301-1468. I answer my own phone, or text. You could text me at that number as well. Or if you'd like to schedule a 30-minute call, you can schedule that with talkwithlarryhoffman.com. Here, let me go to this thing here. So you can always schedule that talkwithlarryhoffman.com, and just book a 30-minute call with me, and then we can go over any questions that you have regarding cash for keys or foreclosure, or maybe a performing, non-performing note, or maybe you're just looking to put some lazy assets to work. You can reach out to me, talkwithlarryhoffman.com. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. All right, guys, I don't see anything. I'm just checking one more time. I'm not seeing anything.